Welcome to another episode of the IRONMAN Insider presented by Maurten. I'm your host, Matt Lieto, and a lot has been happening out on the scene with a bunch of races, as you know, and we're coming up on World Champ season, so we thought it would be a good time to do some recapping of the Pro Series and maybe look forward to some of the World Champs races coming up right around the corner. And who best to chat about winning World Championships and World Championships in general than Mirinda Carfrae. What's going on, Rennie?
You know, Matt, a whole lot and not a lot. Kids got off to school last week, just being a parent, and we did a lot of traveling around in the summertime. But yeah, things are going well. I also got to do the marathon portion for the Ironman Foundation in Lake Placid back in July, which was a lot of fun.
Did you do the whole marathon?
I did the whole marathon, yeah. Which
how was that?
Not a big deal for Ironman athletes because I just did the run. But it was awesome. It was so fun. What wasn't fun was sitting around all day waiting to do my run. This started at like 2 p.m.
Oh, funny.
But yeah, I loved it. The support out there was awesome. Lake Placid is just such an awesome location. I always had that on my bucket list to go and do someday, and just never got there because it was sort of in the season where it's kind of close to Kona. At any rate, I got to go out there amongst the masses out running. There were so many people out on course and awesome support, so that was fun. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how this Pro Series shakes out now.
Oh no, it's gonna be crazy. But what is it about Lake Placid that's so amazing? Like, it's just so great on every level.
Yeah, like just that lake, like Mirror Lake. Like, I think the fact that no like motor boats or no motorized craft is allowed on that lake, and so it's if you're swimming and like it's, I don't know, it's like a little gem of a place. I feel like you go there and it just is calming. I don't know what it is about.
It feels like
really cute too.
I don't know if it's like, it feels like summer camp. It just feels like a warm hug or something, right? Like it's it's so nice. And the course is, as fast a swim as you could have, which is cool. And, if you had raced it, like appreciating that, line underneath the whole time. And just one of the most beautiful and challenging courses there is. It's just, it's epic.
Yeah. And again, I'd never been before, but definitely put it on your bucket list if you haven't gone, because it's a great race, and the atmosphere on the course as well, like super awesome support. People are out there in force, and yes, there is a long stretch that a lot of people be like, yeah, but that section where there's no one, it's a marathon. Like, there are going to be sections where there's not a whole lot of support, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I kind of like that about Placid, where that's where I had a battle out there in the marathon, and that's where your mental fortitude matters, right? Where there's some races like Ironman Wisconsin, I remember wanting to drop out, but every 20 feet there was a person yelling at you, so you couldn't, right? Yeah, too many people that hold you accountable out there, but that's sweet. I'm glad you got to enjoy that. And are you and Tio, have you guys been doing the RV thing? Is that what's been going on?
Yes,
crazy.
We did a week up in Grand Lake, Colorado, which is also super stunning up there. So that's only about a couple hours, 2 hours from here, 2.5. And then we also did Jackson, Wyoming.
It's rad.
A few days in Coulter Bay, which is like the campsite is like right on the big lake there. So we just hung out, walked down, spent time at like the beach, which was like a lake beach. And then we went into Jackson, and we stayed at a campsite just outside as well. And that little town is awesome. I'd never been before. So yeah, we had a great time. We spent like a week there as well. So yeah, we're doing it.
How is it seems like you're doing a pretty good job winning in it could be a challenge going from professional athlete to not professional athlete, but it seems like you're settling in just fine.
Yeah. I think, a number of reasons. I have children that take up all of my time. And then also threw myself into some coaching as well, coaching with Tridot, and have 15 athletes that I'm working with, and that keeps me super busy and fulfilled. And that now, like, I get to be along my athletes' journeys on their big dreams and goals in the sport. So, and then also commentary with yourself and Dee Dee and Michael and
Yeah.
Sid and Welshie. So, yeah, I have plenty to keep, myself busy. And yeah, just kind of enjoying being over this side of the fence and not being stressed about training 7 hours a day and just being a small beginner.
That's awesome. Well, I'll say you're making it look easy, and I will say, and I'm not like upset about this at all because I love you and you're doing a great job, but you're making the commentary look really easy. Like you are crushing it. I was listening into some Frankfurt stuff and obviously in Cairns, and you not missing a beat. You're crushing it.
I'm loving it. Thank you. That's a big compliment from yourself, Matt. Yeah, I mean, I got into this kind of by accident, and I actually just asked if I could join you on the course in Kona back in 22 because I wasn't racing the week. Tim's race wasn't till Saturday, and we were on Thursday, and I'm like, I want to be able to watch this women's race, and it's hard to watch if you don't have all the credentials. So like, I was kind of like, hey, do you think I could get out and help Matt, like do some commentary? And I loved working with you that day, and then got invited to do some in-studio commentary. And yeah, I've been really enjoying it. And I think that's the main thing. Like, if you love what you do, then hopefully it comes across well. And yeah, but we need to get together for in-studio. So maybe next year we'll line up a couple of...
We'll make it happen, but we're going to be out on course together.
Exactly.
Here soon. It's the World Champs, right?
Yep, Nice and Topor. So that'll be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff for sure. And isn't it cool? Like, and I think we're talking about the transition from being a pro athlete to not. How lucky are we, right? Like, I don't want to be out there anymore, like at all.
Yeah, no.
But be 0%. But being out there and being able to like be at the front and have that access that you're talking about, and being able to see like the athletes being rewarded and like those stories come through of all that hard work. Like, I just think we're the luckiest people around. It's awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, and knowing what it takes, I think both of us have been there and like suffered and felt defeat and felt, the joy of, and so you can put yourself or, almost in that athlete's position while they're going through it. And then it's a front row seat. And we're both, I'm such a fan of the sport and the athletes. And so, we get a front row seat to this sport that we love. So I think, yeah, it's the best job.
Totally. You have a little bit more experience on knowing how it feels to win world championships than I do. I'd say a lot more. How many world champs did you win on all? A lot of people have forgotten that you won 70.3 world champs back in the day.
So I won 4. And sometimes it's reported that I won 5, but I've won 4. I won 3 in Kona. I don't correct them when people say 5-time world champ. I'm like, oh, that sounds fine. I won 70.3 worlds back in 2007, and then Kona in 10, 13, and 14. So
awesome.
Over a decade expired now, but
there you go. And
good time.
Not many people. Although, man, I guess we're getting closer. It seems like there's an era now, and we're going to jump into the Pro Series here in a second. But I feel like there was a long period of time where winning a 70.3 Worlds and an Ironman wasn't really a thing anymore. Like, after you and Crowe, I think, I don't know that anybody else really did it, but now we're getting back into that with Blumenfeld and Gustav, and I mean, Taylor Knibb is obviously one that is a contender when she does both of those. Lucy Charles. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It was almost like athletes were either specialized in Ironman or they were specialized in short course, but we're seeing like these phenomenal athletes come through that can do both. And Blumenfeld's like obviously the poster child for that. Also Taylor Knibb. But yeah, she's yet to win an Ironman world title. I think that's for sure in her future if she continues on this trajectory.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, those two specifically also with Olympic distance medals, being able to do that. And, Lucy has had the ability to, and I think when she has won both, they've been like pretty
Yeah.
epic performances. Like I still think that her St. George 70.3 Worlds was one of the best 70.3s I've ever
Yeah.
witnessed.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Daniela's
it's
won ZLMC. Was it in ZLMC?
yes, it
Yes.
was.
That was ridiculous. Didn't she win by like, I don't know. My mind, you forget, but I feel like she won by like over 10 minutes. Something
She
like
might
that.
have. And I think I'm biased because I was on course for that St. George. So like it feels different when you see it in person. I mean, I do remember, I'm not going to call him out, but when Danielle Reef was holding up her finish line banner, there was a very good male pro that was
Behind her.
under her arm. Okay, I'm gonna say his name. It was Chris Leiferman. That's how much she won by, that she beat Chris Leiferman. He had to like crawl underneath her to get across the finish line while he was celebrating. And I feel okay saying his name because we're gonna talk about him today. He's in 5th place in the series.
Yeah.
So that was an outlier there. But anyways, it's cool to see, even though I feel like it should be more specialized. Like it should take more of a specialist now because of the athletes that we have and the caliber. It should take more of a specialist to win 70.3 and more of a specialist to win Ironman, but it's not. It's just like these crazy athletes.
Yeah, I think I think Daniela was cut from a different cloth, and then Lucy Charles is kind of been, but then I think we're seeing with Taylor and Blumenfeld, you're seeing like the short course specialists. I think they're going to be the Ironman 70.3 world champions, unless there's an outlier like Daniela,
You're right.
or Lucy. But yeah, I think that's how the 70.3 world champs is going to go. But hey, that's just
We'll see.
Yeah.
Totally. And so, it really kind of leans into the Pro Series. And obviously, it's the first year of the Pro Series. But I do think, like, everything we're talking about as far as the very, very best are actually doing well over both distances. Like, I think we're going to see athletes actually develop differently with this Pro Series because they have to think about being good at all the different things if they want to get there. And what do you think so far about the Pro Series? Like, anything that surprised you on like a global scale as far as, how maybe athletes are racing or who's showing up to races, or what's just your overall impression of kind of what the Pro Series has been doing?
Yeah, I think, well, to this point, I think the athlete that set up their season around the Pro Series is the athlete who is at the top at this point.
Sure.
You talk about Daniela, you talk about Matt Hansen, athletes like that maybe weren't ones that you would, or Jackie Herring, athletes that you wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, Jackie's going to win or Daniela's going to be in the top 3. Those are the athletes that have set up their year to be able to perform at all of the races that you need to perform at. You need 5 good scores. And right now, yes, the athletes that have 5 scores are at the top, and think things are going to shake up as we move the championship season. But I still think it's like you need to have banked 2 good Ironman by now because there's only Kona left. And then you can't have a bad day in Kona. And so someone like Matt Hansen, who's one that has done 3 Ironman, he already has those 3 Ironman scores, and he's got 2 really good 70.3 scores. His Ironman scores haven't been great. So I think athletes looking at that, like maybe he like over raced a little bit. He historically has not done well in Kona. So I think he wanted to bank that 3rd good Ironman score in case Kona is like a lemon.
Totally.
Other athletes have been like, okay, do I just do 2? And then like, I just have to make Kona be a great day. And maybe it's not. And then Hansen's in top. So I think, he's hedging his bets.
Yeah. So that's my question. Is there, and I'm not bagging on Hansen at all or Herring or any of the people in the top, but it's more when I look down, and we'll get into some specifics, but is it the athletes that are on the top now? Are they the athletes that don't back themselves at world championships? Right? Like, is that forward planning mean they're like, I don't know if I have it?
I think so. If you back yourself at world champs, you're going to go all in and score 2 Ironmans, and then you're going to go and try and win Kona or get in the top few in Kona, and that'll be enough. Like, if you get 2 good Ironman scores and then are right around the front in Kona, then you're probably winning the series.
Right.
Obviously you still do have to score those 2 good 70.3s, but I feel like those Ironman scores just are so much heavier, right? Like 5,000 points versus 2,500 points and 6,000.
Yeah.
So those scores are just so important. And I think, yeah, the athletes like Kat Matthews, like she's sitting pretty right now. Like,
Oh, totally.
she's
Totally.
like, right around middle there, like, but 5,000 score in Texas. And she got that other really good score. Did she win that other Ironman? My mind did.
Victoria.
Victoria. Yeah. So
Yeah.
she's got 2 scores. And then she just did Talon and got second. So 3 really solid scores. She needs another 70.3, and I don't know where she's going to do that. She might be lined up this weekend actually in LMC.
She's signed up for it.
Yeah,
But
that's
if,
2 weeks in a row.
yeah, I saw somewhere that she said it was a backup race, so we don't expect to see her to race there.
She's
And
also trying to shift because of that
Mhm.
DNF in what was Hamburg? Oh no, it was somewhere. Yeah, Hamburg.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, she got
So
disqualified.
and it's funny because I was able to be on coverage for Talon with Sid, and she very much has been blatant in saying like she wants perfect scores, and she did not get a perfect score there. That surprised her. But I mean, I think the other 70.3 score she's going to be banking on, if we know Kat, is 70.3 worlds, right? And also I think we're going to see opportunity for athletes down in WA. It was a little bit later and perfect timing if you're on that side of the world to go over to 70.3 worlds. But yeah, so let's get into the women's right now. So we got top 10. We got Jackie Herring, Danielle Lewis, Maja Stage Nielsen, Kat Matthews, Alice Alberts, Kylie Simpson, Danielle Blamel, Els Visser, Erin Shankles, Fenella Langridge. And Fenella, just for broad spectrum, you have 99, 71 points. And then Jackie Herring, 14, 4, 8, 7. And within that, as you said, there's a lot of athletes that have raced a bunch. So like you look at Kylie Simpson, she's got as many scores as she can get. So she just needs to like increase how many points she has. You've got totally. Jackie Herring, she actually only has 4 races being up top, so she's got some room. But if you look down the list, you've got Blemel has 3 races scored, 2 Ironmans. Els has 3 races scored. Lottie Wilms is in 11th, and she only has 2 races scored, and she's only 2,500 points back with a lot of race, 2,500 points from 3rd place, I believe. Yeah. So it's all super tight, but is there anybody in there that surprises you as to where they're at, all encompassing, like including the amount of races that they've done and kind of performances to this point?
I think not really, because I didn't have like a firm view of because we haven't seen this play out before.
Yeah.
I didn't really have like these athletes are going to be at the top. And because it's such a season-long narrative, I didn't really, I don't know. There's not really any that are like, I mean, Daniela Lewis up at the top. She, I think, is doing awesome and has raced a lot. So she's someone who's banked a lot. I think Jackie Herring is one that has surprised a little bit more, that she hasn't done Ironman in so long. So I'm saying not surprised now, since she went and won Hamburg earlier in the year. So she's like, okay, yeah, of course now Jackie's on the radar. But having said that, Jackie didn't have the greatest 2023. So she was almost like, oh, is she, getting ready to retire? Is she ready to, be done? And it's kind of been a resurgence of Jackie. So that's been really awesome to see her come back and do Ironman so well. She is going to have a really good score in Kona, but she could win the series. Like, that's an option for her.
You add 5,500 points, or over 5,000 points if she has a great race in Nice, and she's
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Then she's at 20,000 points, and it will take close to perfect score, or pretty much a perfect score for someone like a Cat Matthews to get that. And I'm glad you pointed out, Jackie, because and I've said this a few times, I haven't had a chance to chat with Jackie about it, but hoping to get her on soon and do so. But I think she was talking to like maybe Paula Finley or somebody after the race in Finland and was like, I don't know, I think I'm out. I think I'm done. And I was like, stop the conversation. Like, you cannot be done. Like, whatever. Right. Or maybe that was even in my head. We didn't actually have the conversation.
We were together. Remember that?
Was it us? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, well, she was sitting with her husband. She's like, "Yeah, maybe I'm done." Or she's like, "I'm just going to do an Ironman at the end of the season." I'm like, "An Ironman is not the way to dig yourself out of a hole." Like, right?
Yeah.
Let's, you've had a bad.
I can't believe I forgot. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that was you. Totally. And in that moment, and we both felt that because we've both been there. But like, you can't judge after that, and to see her come back and be reinvigorated, not that the Pro Series should take credit for it, but clearly she's been excited about it. She got back to Ironman after I think like 7 years off.
Yeah.
And is absolutely like crushing it. And I think Topaz is going to be a great course for her too, so she can replace a score that she's got. But she, to me, is, and there's no disrespect to any of the other women in the top 5, but in the top 5 right now in the Pro Series, Jackie Herring is one that has the ability to be there at the end, right? Like, she can hang in a world championship, certainly one like Nice and certainly one like Topaz. So she's not going to drop down. Where I think, and I'm not rooting against Danielle Lewis, and people think that I am because I said she wasn't going to win Placid during the race. I still have to eat a shoe in front of her for that. But she's just replacing points now to a certain extent, right? So like,
she's already that she's got to replace, and historically has not done well at World Championships. Not to say that she can't do well this year, but she's just a solid year-round performer, and I think that the Pro Series is great for Danielle. Maybe she doesn't win, but maybe she still gets top 3, 4. That's a massive payday, right? Like for any athlete. And I think, I mean, the 2 athletes that really stand out to me in the women's are Jackie and Kat. Lotte Wilms as well. She's racing a 70.3 this weekend, and I'm sure we'll be trying to get a great score in Nice as well. So I'm sure she'll move up. And again, I think we will have a lot of movement once we get through Nice, of course, and we should. What I'm also finding, which I guess I'm a little bit surprised by, is how important the World Championship still is.
Right.
So that's
me too.
One thing I was kind of worried, like not worried, but like, it's going to take a little bit away from like the focus of the World Champs, but it's so important for the series and to be a world champion. I think it's almost like made it more important to race well in Kona. I agree. I agree completely, because I was the same way. When the points were up, I was like, man, I don't think world champs are going to have that much to do with the end outcome. But with the way these ladies and men have set up their seasons and like their performances at the very top, you're like, oh no, that is going to be hugely important. And I think 70.3 World specifically is going to have much more of an impact than I think I gave it credit for. And need to point out, Danielle Lewis does have another Ironman to score, so she will move up a fair bit if she races well in Nice. So she definitely has a chance still at a top 5. But I think World Champs is going to be huge. Like, and talk about as well, we haven't seen the women race there yet, right? At a World Championship level. And so an athlete like Daniela, who may not have performed so well in Kona, I think Nice is like, Placid was great for her. Yep. Nice is going to be a great race for her. So, it's such an unknown going into, for the women in particular, I think. Totally. And I think to me, surprises have been so far Alice Alberts. I'm surprised to see her as far up as she is, and I'm stoked to see it. Obviously, she races well, but like pretty new on the scene, and she's top 5, and she only has 2 Ironman scored as well. Yeah. So she opportunity to move up as well. Totally. And so my early season, and it's
so fun, and we're going to continue probably to dissect, who focused on early seasons and late season, but an athlete that I would have picked to be on the podium of the series on the women's side, that it looked like she was stacking all early season, Fenella Langridge.
Mm-hmm.
She now has only 3 races scored, and she's in 10th, and she's only 3,000 points out of top 3.
Yeah.
And she got kind of owned by the Taylor Knibb effect at Oceanside, right? Where after that race, people are like, man, in my opinion, if you're going for the series and Taylor is at the race, like maybe find another race, or just like know that that's what that's going to be. So I think that race scored a lot less than maybe she thought. But then I'm almost certain, I don't know her schedule, but she's raced well in WA before. She's going to be at WA 70.3 to replace that score, I'm sure, on a fast course. So even if she doesn't win, she's not going to lose that many points, because every second matters. And then 70.3 worlds, and then obviously a Nice score as well. So like, I think she did the like bookend, which might be the smart way to do it.
Yeah, like go hard in the beginning and then like finish strong. I think for sure but I just think you've got to do a mid-season Ironman though, and she did. She did Hamburg in June. Yeah. So you can go hard in the beginning of the season, get that Ironman banked, and maybe rack a 70.3 up. But again, that 70.3 might not even be that important, because she's most likely going to replace it, because she raced Taylor and it only got 1,500-ish points. She's going to want to replace that and then get a good score at 70.3 worlds in Topor. So yeah, absolutely. She's sort of a sleeper right now and not being talked about it much, because she didn't have a great, early season. I mean, she was 100% overshadowed and finished 6th in Oceanside, 6th in Texas, and then 4th in Hamburg. So Fenella is the type of athlete that has the ability to be at the front at any race. World champs, we've seen her many years be at the front, maybe not, finish in the front, but really be close to the front all day. So, I mean, if she finishes off her year strong, then,
Yeah, because she had that, like, and she's one of those athletes, like a Hansen on the men's side is one I thought, okay, this series is perfect for. And she did get in the lead of the series early when there weren't as many people scoring points, because she did those 3 races, pretty early. But it's rad to see that. And I'm looking at points, I'm like, it's going to be Jackie versus Kat, like 100%, right? Like Kat has 2 races left to score. Mm-hmm. She's going to go into each of those races thinking she can win, and she'll probably race more than just those 2. But as we sit, Jackie Herring has 2,200 more points than she does.
Yeah. So, but I mean, Jackie as well has, how many scores does she have now? Does she have the 5 already?
She got 4.
4. Yeah. So she's got 4 and Kat's only got 3. So that makes sense that there's that discrepancy.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're like,
right there.
They're basically separated by a podium finish at a 70.3.
Yeah.
Is what they're separated by. Right. So, and we know Kat's capable of that. But we also, we don't know what's going to happen in Nice, because it's
different.
And Nice, every second matters. And if we look at the men's race last year, there's going to be a lot of seconds in between the positions, right? So like, not only are those 6,000 points really important, but how close you are to the person who wins is going to be hugely important at that race.
Yeah. So then does Kat try to win, or does she just try to be as close to the front as possible? Right? Like,
she's
risk it to try and win. I don't know. Like, someone like Kat could win a world title. Do you like protect your position, like if Jackie's around, or are you just racing to win?
Oh, I think she's racing to win, and it's I mean, that's a good question for sure. But like, we've all looked into Kat's eyes and it's like, okay, she won't.
It's not even a question.
No, it's not a question, and that's how she set her season up. And I think And let's go to the men's side now and kind of what we've seen, how that's panned out. But what you're saying about Kat is it's the athletes. Like Kat wants to win a world championship. And I think she knows in her head, she knows she'll be a world champion one day. Right. And I think it's athletes like that that have set their season up to, as of 3 days ago, Kat had 2 scoring races and she was not that stressed. Right.
No.
You know, she's like, I'm going for worlds. That's the thing. And I think it's one of those things that I think the athletes that tried too hard early to get points maybe prove that they don't back themselves at world championship. And then how much, Rennie, is that a self-fulfilling prophecy? Because now you've got Hansen's got, and I'm not saying not more than anybody, but I want to see Hansen have a good Kona because he deserves it and he's not had great luck.
Yeah.
But if you've already raced 6 times and just in the Pro Series, is it self-fulfilling prophecy because you're tiring yourself out and you're like, oh, I want to make sure I have points just in case I don't do well in Kona. But now you're like, well, dude, now it's, and not to say that, I mean, he's resilient, so he's going to be fine. But like, is there a percentage of they're creating their own destiny by not backing themselves?
Possibly. And if you talk to Matt too, he like, after Lake Placid and Frankfurt, he's like, those scores suck. Like that's not what I needed. Series. Like I needed to score like close to 5,000 points in each one of these. And yes, I think in the back of his mind, he's like, he still has Kona. He still has an opportunity. But yeah, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're like, I need to bank like these 3 great Ironman scores now so that it doesn't matter what happens in Kona. And it does matter now. If he wants to win the series, he needs to be like really close to the lead in Kona. So I think so. Yeah. And again, love nothing more than to see Hansen nail it in Kona. But history has shown us and him as well that he hasn't been able to get that puzzle correct yet. So I mean, is it smart?
Yeah,
I don't know. In your position, if you were in his shoes, would you have done the same thing? I don't know. It makes for a lot of racing, but Hansen, if anyone knows him, he's like a beast. He backs up training. He can just. Oh,
and all this being said, I am so hugely impressed by his season and how he's like full resurgence, and more so impressed with like, crap, dude, that guy is good at 70.3s, and we forget about that sometimes. Like his Chattanooga was crazy. Yeah. His Boulder was crazy.
Yeah.
And so he's all these things that we're talking about. He's also made himself the best athlete we've seen of him in the last 10 years. So like,
yeah,
not criticism, right?
We're not. It's just, we're just looking like, if you want to be the best in the world,
yeah,
in the Pro Series, then you have to have perfect scores. And so that's what we're nitpicking at, right? Like
yeah, totally.
And he's the same. Like he's a perfectionist. He likes to, he loves to win. And he's a smart man. He knows what is going to take to win that series. And so he's kind of set himself up and with his best possible chances. But will that be at the detriment to a good performance in Kona?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like it's similar. We're seeing in the Pro Series you can see how people set their season up before the Pro Series when people like, you always see people spinning trying to get Kona qualification, right? And if they didn't, then they'd go late. And then in the end, they were like racing so late that their Kona wasn't going to be good anyways. And then the season was kind of lost. Where now you're seeing that kind of as well. And it's the athletes that are calmly confident that are like, you know what? I'm going to put 5 or 6 races on the schedule and I'm going to try to win those races and do the best I can at all those races. And they're the ones that right now on the board only have a couple, 3, maybe 4 races scored. And it seems like the other ones that are like, my goal is Pro Series, and we're adjusting schedule to try to maximize that. Like we saw Trevor Foley go and try to race the European World Championship. And it's like, you see that coming. And he even said that, man, it's a risk. And it's like, yeah. And I get it. That was your goal, but he got a car crash early. So his season wasn't great. And it's like, man, in the end, maybe just, and again, this isn't criticism, but just noticing that, like, if you just sat back and were like, okay, now I need to readjust, and I'm just, going to try to win world championship or try to win these other races and not spin wheels, like,
Yeah.
just trying to get more points on the board.
Yeah, and that was like he was almost between a rock and a hard place in that he couldn't really start racing to Chattanooga, and he wasn't ready to race in Chattanooga yet. Like he barely ran. He'd run like twice or something on the ground before apering, I think, before that race, and you could see it. He was smashed at the end of that 70.3, and then he knocks it out of the park in Lake Placid, and then he's like, well, I only have one Ironman score. There's only one more chance to go into an Ironman before Kona to get those 3 scores.
Yeah.
I think you do need 3 scores. And so he risked it. Totally. But again, he's so young, and even just going over and experiencing racing in Europe, I think is going to bode well for him in the future, because he's going to have to race well in Europe at some point to do well.
Totally.
So there's 2, right? Like if he won Kona and won Placid, he's not going to win the series. You're
right. Totally.
So he still needs to. So he risked it for the biscuit. I love that.
That's yours. Yeah.
I like Levana said here. No, yeah. But on top of that, he got the experience of racing in Europe, where I don't know if you said this to me, but like you go over to Europe and then, 10 guys you've beat you.
20. Yeah.
It's different, like racing over there, like, and traveling from the US is hard. Like the time change, you got to get that right. And, as Trevor said, the longest he'd travel, it's like 3 hours to a race. Now he's going to Europe,
right?
Non-English speaking. You're racing.
And I was going to ask,
they're kicking your ass.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, like, from, being able to commentate that race, how much did and I wish I could have had just a Zoom like group chat with all these US guys that were going for more points and be like, guys, it's not going to be what you think it's going to be. Sam Long, Matt Hansen, and there were a lot more, but it's like, oh, yes, there are 20 dudes I've never heard of that just completely kicked my ass, right? Like,
yeah, it was phenomenal. It was like anyone who was a factor in the series just did not factor at all in Frankfurt. And we were like, all of our best Americans were over there, right? They were beat up.
Yeah.
They were like coming off races. They're, not peaking for this race. And in Germany, Frankfurt, if you can do well there, it's big, big news. So when you're coming in like half cooked or overcooked, and they're coming in baked just right, it's just not a great situation.
Is it the privilege of being a North American, right? Because I think if you were like, oh, we'll just jump over and we'll get there 6 days out, where it's like, man, every time a Euro comes over and races, they're here for like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, they're not messing around. And I don't think there was an American over there for more than a week before that race.
Yeah, and I think if you want to race well in Europe, you have to, respect that. Like, and also peak for that race, because there's just so many European men and women lined up that are very good, and they're not talked about because we have such great European athletes. So we talk about, the top echelon of the European athletes, but just beneath that, like 1% below, there's another 20 guys and another 15, 20 women who are knocking on the door. And so, it's, and in the moment when you're hurting and you see someone you've never heard of go past you, that's hard. It's heartbreaking.
Because there is a part that when you're in it, you're like, it is a no name, and it's like, oh no, do some research, and you'll see that they're dominating. And okay, so let's go through the men's top 10 right now. Is Hansen, Laundry, who I love. We'll go back and talk to him, but like, he was like, I'm not doing the series this year, it's not made for me, and he's in second place. So I love that. Patrick Lange, Colin Zutsch, Chris Leiferman, Matthew Marquardt, Pamphile Perrin, Paul Schuster, Christian Hogenhag, and Gregory Barnaby. So that's your top 10. And the race that we're talking about, where everybody got smoked, the dude who won that race, Blumenfeld, that was insane. Tell me how insane that was.
Insane. Like, he was just bulletproof on that run. Like, he had a porta potty. I thought he was going to go sub 230. Like, I was like,
seriously?
is this actually happening? Like, and the tracker was slightly off. I think he was within the time with 400 to go. I'm like, he has 2 minutes to get to the finish line, but the tracker mustn't have quite been right. At any rate, you saw him in the last 5K looking at his watch a lot and like trying to sprint, trying to pick up the pace. But what was more surprising was how close behind the next guys were to this phenomenal performance. And again, Christian was smart in the swim. He was smart on the bike. He didn't do anything crazy. He sat in legally. And, and he said that before the race, he's going to have to be patient all day long. And he has access to so much power and speed coming off Olympic trials. But, the Norwegians, they train a lot. So I was like, I think he'll be fine over the Ironman from the training that those guys do. But to see him just go out in that run and just be like the Terminator, like
he's a monster.
The vomiting and like not even died, like he puked like far enough ahead so he could still run and it didn't hit it. Like he didn't
like his vomit crossed the finish line before he did, basically.
It's amazing. He didn't have to it's for side, I don't think.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, straightforward. Like I am forward. It's all forward motion. Almost was crazy, and that's like a warning sign for Kona for everyone, right? Like, okay, Lindenfeld's ready to go again.
And the reason I bring it up because we have to, because that was insane. Also, is if he does Kona and 70.3 Worlds, I don't know what he's committed to, but. And maybe he does another 70.3, but that's another 11,000 points to his 5,000 points. That puts him at 16,000. So someone that wasn't really even planning on trying to do the series, he adds another 70.3 and he might be right in there. But so on the men's side, to me, again, Jackson Laundry is, if I'm looking at surprises right now in this series, it's Jackson being that far up. He still only has 4 races scored. So let's see. He's got two Ironmans, 370. No, he's got 5 races scored already. He did get his Kona.
Yes, 370.
He did his Kona qualification. So he's there ready to go. To me, the other surprise is, and this is why I love the series from the very beginning, is Colin Zutsch. This dude, he's not the only, he's got 4 races. He's got 2 Ironmans and he DNF'd in Frankfurt, unfortunately, but dude's 22 years old. He's like a brand new pro.
Yeah.
And he's in 4th place in this series. Unfortunately, without that Kona qual, he's gonna miss out and slowly just come down, unfortunately. But that's what I love about this series is that, like, if this was an invite only series, 0 chance Colin gets invited. 0, less than 0 chance. Yeah. Right. And he's in 4th. He's been in 3rd. If he had crossed the line in Frankfurt, he'd be in a very different situation. But he has qualified for 7.3 Worlds. He's going to go down there, probably add another race to his score too. But the fact that he has the ability to then have this launching pad if he finishes in the top 10 to get the money that's associated with that. Even if he's out of the top 10, he still gets a little bit of cash, $5,000 to be able to put towards racing. But like, that's sweet. So who are any surprises that you've seen? Obviously Colin, I'm sure, is one for you as well.
Yeah, I think when we sort of thought about who in the men would factor, Hansen was a name that was thrown around. Lange was a name that was thrown around. But also, now I'm blanking on his name, but he hasn't factored. Curry, yes, is another name we threw around, but also the English guy, Skipper. Joe Skipper was one.
Totally, yes.
Joe Skipper's going to kill this series. He can race. Yeah, he like routinely races 3 Ironman a year. He's one of the best in our sports, and he's going to score, he's going to win a couple Ironmans, and then he's going to go do Kona and do well in Kona. Like, he was one that we thought would totally factor, and he just has not performed well this year. So bummed to see him just not be there at all, but he was one that I was like, for sure he's going to be one of the top 3.
I I think that's a huge, great point. Because I think if I would have picked three men that are great over 70.3 in Ironman and just can race a bunch, it would have been him, Hansen, and Curry.
Yeah.
And Curry and I now forgot his name. You said it a second ago. Joe Skipper.
Yeah.
They both chased the series and just had some bad luck, and it just kind of
Yeah.
snowballed. And Braden's like a lot of it really has just been like blatant bad luck, which is
Yes. It was
crazy.
like mechanical and like placid. And then I'm not sure what happened in Frankfurt. And then just
Yeah,
didn't happen in Texas.
yeah, totally. And I think it's hard. Like, and I think, I don't think mentally it's a thing for Braden. I think he's
Yeah.
pretty calm and like perspective. But I'm curious, not that he's not, but I think Skipper, he's always just like raced a bunch because he's like overly confident, not overly confident, but confident as he should be.
Yeah.
I'm going to race, I'm going to go win. Where I don't think that's the same mentality he's had with the Pro Series. He's like, oh, I need to go race and try to get as many points as possible so that I can do well in the series. Like, tell us, like, how different is that mindset than I'm going to go win another race?
Yeah. I think when you set the year up like that, like every race counts. And so there's more pressure maybe on every race. Whereas if you have a standalone, I want to go and perform as best as I can in this race. And then after that, I'll figure out what I'm going to do next. If you want to do well in the series, you have to do well in every single race. And then, yeah, he just hasn't done well. And it seems like it's just kind of snowballed out of control to he's just like, what? Like, what the heck just happened? Like maybe for Joe going back to, no, I just want to go and rack up some wins. That mindset
Right.
change might, or maybe there's something else going on with him that we're unaware of. But yeah, it's just been crazy to see that has just not worked out for him. And yeah, as you said, Braden Curry, I think there's been more. I think it's hard for the athletes down under to, for Braden.
Yeah.
Children, they live in New Zealand, and yes, he does travel a bit, and they're homeschooled, so he brings them with him a lot. But he's been traveling over by himself or with Sally, his wife, and then going back. And so I think you forget that, the North American athletes are set up really well because, there are European races, there are races here, but there's not really any Asian races. And obviously Taupo in New Zealand at the end of the year. But yeah, they're not going to factor. I mean, they are, but they have to come and travel. And it's almost like you've got to set yourself up in North America for the whole summer if you want to do well in the series, because I think just that travel in itself is an extra obstacle that other athletes are not having to deal with.
Yeah, no, totally. And yeah, he has moved around a fair bit and had spent a fair amount of time in North America early and then has had to come back. And I think you're right. I think that's hugely impactful. I think he was banking on winning cans and, had a great result and still got a lot of points, but was still kind of chasing to a certain point. And so, okay, so on this men's side, who do you think's in the right spot? Like Patrick Lange, obviously, dude is going to get a lot of points in Kona unless something crazy happens, right? He's only has 4 races scored. Jackson only has 4 races scored as well. But who are you seeing right now in the top 15 that is going to be in that podium in the finish?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a fair amount of shakeup. I think Lange's probably the one that's sitting in a really good position. There's other athletes like Lionel Sanders, who was going for the series, but has not banked the points that we thought he would.
Exactly. Yep.
He started out really hot, won Oceanside, great race there, and then kind of was holding off. I don't know who else have you got down in the top 15?
Yeah. So I mean, I keep looking down and it's like, I mean, even Braden Curry's still not out of it. Like he's at 10,000 points and that's only 2,500 points out of third currently. Obviously that's going to continue to move. But for me, it's obviously Lang is in a great spot, but Matthew Marquardt only has 3 races scored. And then you start looking and Rennie, I mean, like Barnaby only has 2 races or sorry, he has 3 races scored with 2 Ironman and 170.3. Hogenhaug only has 3 races scored. He's in 9th place. Barnaby's in 10th. Arnaud Guillot only has 3 scored in 11th. Bradley Weiss only has 3. Robert Callan only has 3. So like that, like 6th through 13th place, those guys are only separated by 1,500 points.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of them who only have 3 scores.
Yep.
And they're going all in for Worlds.
Yeah, totally. I just think that there's so much opportunity. Like even Trevor Foley down in 17th,
Yep.
that kid comes out and races really well in Kona. I think, yeah, as I said, it just goes back to what I thought wouldn't be as important, and that's the World Championships. Like there's
Right.
much room for movement with a really good score, and everyone being so tightly packed together. It makes for, obviously it's exciting in itself, but the overall standings are going to shake up a bunch with that score at the end of the year.
Totally. And I think
Langer, because he just races well at championships.
100%, right? And I think, he's got the launching or like a head start. Hansen has a head start. Hansen is, again, he's shown into 70.3s that he's going to be a factor in Topaz as well if he goes down there ahead of time and gives it the credit it deserves. So I think in the men's race, there's so many, like I could see Barnaby ending up on the podium, right? Or Arnaud Guillot even, because they have 2 more races to score and they can do well over both of those distances. But Rennie, I think now's the time for you and I to both apologize to the higher ups at Ironman, because when they announced the points, I think both of us were like, oh man, I think we need to do something to make world champs worth more. And they're totally right. And it's worth more, but it's also not heavily weighted towards it. Like it's going to be tight still.
Well, we've thought we're like only 6,000 for the world champs, like as opposed to like 5,000 points. But I think what we're seeing is that the world champs is the world champs, and it will be very important for every athlete looking for the overall, and just as usual, it's a world champ. So I'm excited for this, because obviously to crown the world champion, but then there's going to be just so much more narrative and athletes racing to the finish line, and like the races within the races, there's just going to be so much more dynamic to that race,
so much
than we usually see. So I'm pretty stoked that it's played out like this. And again, it's the first year. We didn't know that this is what would happen, but I'm really happy that this is the way it's panned out.
Oh yeah, me too. And I'm really excited to be in Nice and cover this with you. And I'm going to put you on the spot. And I wasn't planning on doing this, but we're going to do it.
Oh,
who are podiums, Pro Series, end of the year, men and women? And I'll go first to give you some time, at least on the men. I'm going to go with Lange. I don't even know who I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with Lange, Hansen, because I want him to have a good race in Kona, and Barnaby. That's your men's podium. What do you got?
We go with Lange. I'm going to go with, I want to say Marquardt, but then I'm also looking at Trevor Foley. Like this kid, his like ability.
But he's not going to get 3 Ironman scored though.
I know, but right now, like you look at, he's down at almost 10,000 points.
Yeah.
Has Marquardt got 270.3s?
He has 3 races scored. Yeah, 270.3s.
I guess I'd probably have to put Marquardt ahead of him, because if Foley beats Marquardt, he wouldn't lose enough points.
Yeah.
And then
okay, one more.
Oh gosh. I don't know.
I love it. Isn't it hard? That's what's so great. Hard. It should be easy, but it's not.
Yeah. I can't pick the third.
There you go.
I'm gonna say another.
Okay.
Dude.
Okay, so men's side or women's side, I'm gonna go Jackie. I'm gonna go Fenella. and to win Kat.
Yeah.
So Kat, Jackie, Fenella.
I have Jackie and Kat. Probably Kat to win, Jackie second. And then yeah, Fenella's hard to go by. Els Visser.
There you go. That's a great call. I think that's a great call.
Yeah.
Because her third, one of her 3 scores was just at Talon was 10th place. So she can replace that as well as the season goes. But there you go. Well, winner gets to buy the other person beers at World Champs at the end in Topaz. So yeah, it's going to be great. Rennie, can't thank you enough for coming on and chatting with us. And I think, honestly, just having this conversation with you makes me realize how much more excited I am about the Pro Series and how dynamic it actually has been.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was hard to get super excited at the beginning because we're like, okay, there's one score, it was like, okay, maybe we'll have more. And it's actually played out that way all the way through. Like maybe when they've got 2 Ironmans under the belt, maybe when they've got, it's been like that all along. So it's been really fun to follow and fun for us to have an extra talking point. But yeah, I'm super excited for the end of the year and to see you, hang out with you at least.
It's going to be great. Awesome. Thanks so much, Rennie.
Thank you.
Well, that was awesome. Love talking to Rennie. And man, it just gets me super excited for all the world champ races coming up. And obviously ZLMC coming up as well, just to keep an eye on that. And those results are going to be impactful as well. But stay across all the latest Ironman Pro Series news. Follow at Ironman Try on Instagram and check out proseries.ironman.com for standings, athlete bios, episodes of A Fighting Chance, replays of the races, and more. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Maurten, the official sports performance nutrition partner of the Ironman Global Series. All Ironman athletes have access to Maurten hydrogels and solids on course in 2024, and I cannot thank Maurten enough for their support of the podcast. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you're sitting on the trainer, you can also watch the podcast as a video on Ironman Triathlon YouTube channel. And if you didn't listen to last episode, we had Paul Felder on from USC. Dude is hilarious, great, awesome perspective on the sport. Again, if you haven't listened to it, please go back and do so. I think it was a really good conversation. And thanks again for joining us on the Ironman Insider podcast presented by Maurten. And be sure to tune in as we're going to have more great conversations as we head in and through World Championship season. I'm your host, Matt Lieto. Thank you so much for tuning in.